You can get 100% linen, going to the store, but then if it's dyed and it has a color, they're not, they might not be disclosing what chemicals are in those dyes. And that's usually where all the chemicals are.
Welcome to Whole-ly Chit. I am your host, Kristy Austin, here to remind you that you are whole, just the way that you are. Also, chit, a Sanskrit word for pure consciousness, the reason that I started this podcast, to raise the collective consciousness. Thank you for being here. I am super excited about today's guest. Today's guest, someone I just met a few months ago, but right off the bat, we started talking about different healing modalities. 5 hours later, we're like, what? We've been talking about this stuff for 5 hours. We definitely connected on a spiritual level. I'll have so much to share with you today. He is an artist, an expert textile materials, the clothes that we wear on our bodies. I'm super excited to introduce Asher Sinclaire. Asher Sinclaire, please share with us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what got you on this textile journey, and just a little bit. I know that when I say tell us a little bit about yourself, that's like a loaded question because we could go on and on. So tell us a little bit, just a little tad bit about what got you started on this healing journey.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kristy. Thank you for having me on the podcast. It's a pleasure and an honor. My name is Asher Sinclaire. I'm a digital eco artist, and I create designs for my photographs, and I digitally print them onto natural, ethical and sustainable natural eco-textiles. And my journey has evolved. So I also encompass a lot of what's kind of considered biohacking or just body enhancement. That has come through this journey at the same time, and through the textiles, that's kind of blossomed this journey even more. But it's kind of been basically evolving, just like we always are. But that's basically where I'm at right now, and things are evolving and changing currently as well. I'm in a big shift in my whole human experience. So yeah, let's continue in. But I'm excited to talk about ethical and sustainable natural textiles, and of course marrying them to our skin.
Yes, I love that. Thank you for being here. And I feel like we're all getting these downloads and this huge energetical shift with our planet right now, right? We did just have a big shift, and I think we're all feeling that. So I'm excited about this new journey that we're all sharing together. Yes. So the textiles, have you always been interested in textiles, or like what started you on that
Yeah,
journey?
yeah, absolutely. Actually, what really started my journey is more of my love and connection with the natural world or nature. I like to call it the wilderness. As I've evolved on my journey, especially through Ayurveda, that we are nature. We're made up of all the elements that we observe and kind of participate in with nature. So I like to say the wilderness. So my connection and basically just my whole human experience with the natural world. So it evolved really from photography, my love of photography. And just as a child, I was always out in the wilderness hiking. I loved hiking and exploring. But photography and picking up the camera allowed me to meditate really on a lot of the things in the natural world. Flowers. I always was really intrigued with getting up close and taking macro shots and of flowers and things like that. Always caused a little bit of an issue sometimes on summer vacations because my father, who is really into history, wanted me to kind of document more of the experience and having pictures of people and things like that, kind of more of a photojournalistic aspect, which I appreciate, but I just found myself just really submersing myself just more in the natural world and really being intrigued and fascinated. So it evolved from there. In high school, I got more into black and white photography. That's right when digital was becoming more and more prevalent in our lives, digital photography. But I was right at that kind of last cusp of having my own dark room and developing my own film and photography in the dark room. So doing a lot of black and white photography. So it evolved from there. As I continued on my journey with photography, I did photojournalism. I worked for a local newspaper in Prescott, Arizona. I photographed weddings and did portrait work, event photography. I did commercial photography, all sorts of different types of photography. But really, my true love was photographing the natural world and photographing just all the elements that really inspired me in that respect. So uh, I went and I wanted to take my art and bring it off of the wall, and I was trying to find ways to do that. I first tried ceramic tiles, which I could incorporate in an architectural sense. And then I was introduced to digital textile printing, and that was in 2008. And then it really blossomed in 2011, where I was introduced to a company called Spoonflower, which more people have become familiar with. But really digital textile printing. And then as I was doing that, I was really curious at what textiles I was printing on. I had the option of printing on synthetics, things like rayons and polyesters mainly. And I was really looking for a natural material. I was looking for something to really mirror what I was doing and creating with my creations. And that's when I dove in and started finding out more about what organic cotton was and linens and hemps and uh, things, jute and all sorts. I mean, there's a number of them, wools, and that's how this basically evolved. And then I started diving deeper into the ethical, sustainable aspect of not only what textile, but how they were being produced, and really just snowballed into meeting people all around the world that were participating in creating natural textiles, and then how, for me, how to source them, obtain them. And it was really a beautiful just journey, and it still is, of connecting with individuals that are participating in that space, and then finding out more about myself and how it basically marries with me, the whole essence of the natural textiles and what it actually is doing to our bodies as we're wearing them, or even too as we have them in our environments in our homes. So I'm really all about eco homes too, eco lifestyle in that respect, and just really building out a relationship with it.
Right. Yeah, I love that. And you one of your pictures is behind you, which I
Mhm.
love that you have your artwork behind you. And what I
Yeah.
one thing I love about your artwork is that it has so many layers to it. It's like pictures within pictures. So I love your artwork. It's just the depth of your artwork is amazing. But also, I wanted to touch base on what you were talking about, the clothes that we put on our skin. Because for me, going through Kundalini yoga teacher training, that was one of the things we had to wear white cotton, like pure, they said silk or pure cotton, it just like pure materials, linen, wool, like you had mentioned. And it's like everyone ran out and got cotton because that's the cheapest, right? So that's mostly what we wore. But I noticed a shift within my yoga practice wearing just pure cotton,
Mhm.
pure white cotton, practicing, doing my meditations. Um, how my energetic level felt. So you and I started talking about that because I thought, I wasn't ready to shift my entire closet. I'm still, it's a journey, right? We're all on this journey together. So it's like, okay, I'll put a few pieces of linen or wool or pure cotton. And you and I were talking about it, and we got even deeper into the people that make those clothes and their energy that goes into that. So
Mhm.
the clothes we put on our body have layers of energy, not only the material, but the people that are putting their work, their sweat, their tears into the clothes. And that energy is also merging with ours. So I thought that was very powerful. And I thought, you know what? I've worked so hard with working on the stuff that I put on my body, the makeup that I wear. I learned that most of the makeup that I wear has chemical, horrible chemical or cancer causing chemicals within them. I like threw most of the stuff out. And even then, it's very extremely difficult to find products
Mhm.
that don't have damaging chemicals in them. And then you take that a step further to the clothes that you put on your body. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. Just like you said, it is a evolutionary process. It was that for me, and I wouldn't expect it to be any different for any other individual. I mean, unless you were obviously really submersed in it as a child and grew up in that type of environment. But and of course, it's really taking me back to connect with a lot of indigenous peoples and indigenous ways of creating things. I've always been connected to that. My father, again, he was a history educator here in Arizona, and we were always taken to places, different national monuments, national parks, things like that, sacred sites, indigenous sites. And so I was already building out a relationship and an understanding of indigenous peoples, really, of the Southwest, and of course the United States, and all around the world. But it was really more condensed to Arizona and the United States. And yeah, it's definitely more for me. It's definitely a remembering, I feel, than anything, because as I connect with those things, there's a familiarity, to me, and it feels comfortable to me in the sense that I relate to it and it makes sense. And so my journey started out when I was introduced to, like I was saying, digital textile printing, and learning about natural textiles, where I was still wearing and consuming a lot of synthetics on my body. And that was because I was into the outdoors. I was into rock climbing, into whitewater kayaking, and mountain biking. And in those particular, environments or communities of people, there's a lot of synthetics that are used, in the sense, polyester specifically, just because that's what outdoor gear is made out of. And so that was kind of just part of my lifestyle and how I saw myself, and just the gear, that we're wearing on our bodies. And so as I was doing that process and working through learning about the natural textiles, it actually wasn't really immediately apparent to me of how it was going to be integrating and become part of my lifestyle on my body and through my clothing. So I started a brand with my brother when I moved to Hawaii, Big Island, in 2013, and then that evolved for the next couple of years, 14, 15, 16. And it even then I was still wearing a lot of synthetics. And when you're in Hawaii and in different climates, you're looking for textiles, first of all, that won't mold. And so I was wearing a lot of, like, again, polyesters, but polyesters can also retain and hold a lot of bacteria in them. And a lot of people probably have witnessed this, where you get a smell going with them, just from your body odor and things like that. And so I was experiencing those. They wouldn't be molding, but they would have a really interesting smell, and also be very clammy in a sense, and not really allowing my body to breathe. But then wearing natural textiles could be kind of tricky because of having to have that airflow going on, so that you wouldn't have the molds and things like that. There are natural textiles that kind of naturally repel those things, but things like cotton and stuff like that, you just have to know how to care for the textile. Because if you don't know how to care for it really and have that relationship with it, then you're going to get those things, those the bacteria and more the molds and stuff will fester. So in that particular period, I was wearing a lot of synthetics, and again, wasn't as fully aware. But as things, just I feel like more on my spiritual journey, as I became more in touch with subtle energies, and I can talk a little bit more about that as well as my journey evolved. uh think feeling into what the textile felt like on my body, and you really have to observe how your body's breathing, really you feel in your body,
Mhm.
to actually even be able to understand this on that level. Because if you are participating in kind of more the headspace, mind space, and going about your day and focused on a lot of things outside of your body, then you might not see any of the difference, and you might not even really be aware of it. So you could be wearing these things, and also too experimenting. If you don't really experiment and you keep doing, and I think this is a great testament and metaphor to even this podcast and this journey in general, is if you don't experiment a little bit, then you really don't know the difference. And you can't really even, determine or make a decision, an educated decision in that respect of what you personally want to wear or what feels better on your skin. So, but yeah, as I've evolved too, I've even found they're called semi-synthetic textiles, yeah, semi-synthetic is what they're called, but they're kind of like a blend. They're textiles that you would think they're marketed as being natural textiles, but there's a lot of controversy when you start diving deeper. And one of them is bamboo. Bamboo, the plant itself is very sustainable in how fast that it grows, and in the conditions that it grows. That naturally in a lot of places it's growing, and it's growing very quickly. Can even be harvested very ethically in that respect in these smaller communities. But then when it comes to processing bamboo to make it into a textile, that's when there's a tremendous amount of chemicals that are used to break down the cellulose of that, and turn it into a fiber. Basically, they have to create it, make it into a pulp, and then push it, basically bathe it in chemicals to get it stable enough to make it into a yarn to then make it into a textile. And those things, leaving the textile, one, you could test it, and that is another space that I'm in with actually testing textiles to make sure that they're free from harmful chemicals. There's a organization that's called OEKO-TEX certification. We're seeing a lot more of it in Targets and Walmarts and things like that. You're seeing garments and sheets really that have those certifications. And so basically that's the end product, stating and sharing with the customer that the product at the end of its life cycle is free from any harmful substances.
Share that,
However, yeah,
share that again. How do you know when something's been tested?
yeah. So there's a certification. It's called OEKO-TEX. So it's OECO and then dash TEK. So I'm sorry, OE KO, UCO, and then dash TEX, if I'm not mistaken, but OEKO-TEX certification. And their common one is called the Standard 100 certification. And that one, again, certifies a product from being free from harmful chemicals at the end of its life cycle. They have another certification. It's called Made in Green, which we're starting to see more of as well, but it's a little less common. And that's where it's actually certifying the whole supply chain and stating and sharing with the customer that the whole supply chain is ethical, sustainable, and of course, it's free from harmful chemicals as well. So that's one certification. There are a number of them out there, but that's one that's becoming more popular. The other certification that's really great, but does not test necessarily the chemicals, is the GOTS certification. So that's going to be the GOTS, which is the Global Organic Textile Standard, and that's going to be that became a lot more popular around when I was being introduced to this space, around certain things that were happening in the fast fashion industry, and are still happening, but where they're certifying the whole supply chain for being ethical and sustainable. So those are regulations that they're going, standards that they're going in, and the different mills and different organizations along the supply chain are getting certified, so that again, it's really a marketing and selling benefit, or to these companies, to inform their customers that they're doing it ethically and sustainable, just because obviously that's becoming more and more popular. So, but yeah, I was just going to mention real quick with the bamboo, or in that state, like you can have that be at the end of its life, but keeping in mind that process of using the chemicals. And a lot of people just skip the fact that, think about the folks, the people that are working with those chemicals in those particular mills that are, basically working with their hands and participating in that, and also the inhalation, inhaling a lot of those things in those spaces too. So that definitely gets kind of forgotten about.
Believing Before Seeing, a new book by Candace Barr, teaching you how to believe into existence. Available now for pre-order.
Right. I'm glad that they have ways that we can know if it's certified organic. And there's things now where there wasn't necessarily a few years ago. So
Yeah.
that's really nice. Also, I want to elaborate. uh, excuse me. I want to elaborate what you were talking about with when our clothes mold. Think about if it's molding on the clothes, because I actually experienced that when I went to Costa Rica for my first yoga teacher training. My clothes, it was so moist there that my clothes were actually starting to mold. I was like, what's going on here? They're growing mold. This is crazy. And if it will do that to your clothes and you're wearing them on your skin, what do you think that's doing to you? It's merging with your skin. So when you start getting like skin issues, if you have fungus, athlete's foot, fungus rashes, those are fungus. That's fungus. Same thing. It's mold, fungus. Most people think, oh, it's just a rash. Rash is a mold. It's fungus. So you think about the things that you would take naturally to help with that. Or cure that. That's what you want to do if you go the holistic route of taking care of the rashes on your skin. But a lot of people don't even correlate that it's the clothes they're putting on their body. Right? That's where you and I talk. It's like, we usually just go to the doctor, give me a cream for this rash I have. You're not correlating. It might be the clothes that I'm wearing.
Sure. Yeah, sure. I mean, there's also an aspect too with the mold, festering in cottons and things like, other natural materials. Wools are actually more bacterial in that sense, where you don't get that as much. But even in the wools, or I mean, in the cottons, on the contrary, I feel like to that, when you are getting the molds, there is to me a little bit of a natural sense too, where if the molds are growing or if it's happening, like the textile is alive. And I think that's really important to understand with these natural textiles that it's alive, and again, wearing something that's alive on your body. So the mold too, being attracted to a natural fiber, does kind of have like a fun benefit, I feel like, to it, just in the sense that it's kind of it's a living, it's growing, and there's a reason why the bacteria is obviously great in context, but it's like there is that side of it too, right?
No
But
gratitude for the fungus on your body is what you're saying.
well, right. And two, when you get to like, the micro level of our bodies, right? Like we have things even crawling all over our skin constantly that are part, because we're living, breathing, and we're alive. So, there obviously we respect, yeah, we respect the mold, for sure. However, even like you're saying, I lived on Big Island, I live in some places where there was black mold, and just like anything in, too much, amounts basically can be very, can obviously hinder your health and not be healthy for you. So yeah, I like to also, just when I have conversations, I like to balance out and I like to look at different perspectives, as you can tell, of the situation, because that happened to me even with sustainable fashion as I was getting into it, looking at just multiple perspectives. So, not just as it being like a bad thing. I mean, everything happens for a reason. That's what I honestly believe. I feel like even having synthetics in our lives actually allows us an opportunity to be awoken to the fact that that's, a duality aspect, that there's that and then there's this, and to experiment and play with it. So but yeah, when you're talking about skin irritations and people that that think that maybe it could be something that they're ingesting in their body or something in their environment, definitely. But like you're saying, I mean, sometimes people overlook the clothes that they're wearing. And there are, I've done a lot of research and articles and things talking about folks that are going through a healing journey, especially cancer, where they, for some organizations that are assisting individuals through that process, ones that I feel are more conscious, will get the synthetics out of their lives, and they will be guided to wear, actually more specifically, linen in every garment that they're wearing, just to assist with the journey. So everything kind of compounds and is working together. So I was introduced to Ayurveda really around 2019, and then I integrated it into my life and my lifestyle. And then just shortly after, I was awoken to an aspect of Ayurveda that's called Ayurvastra. And Ayurvastra is medicinally infused natural textiles. And Ayurvastra is used in India more prominently, not known as much here in the United States or even around the world. But where Ayurvedic doctors in India, if they're working with a patient that has a skin condition or even any kind of condition, but things like rheumatoid arthritis or eczema, things like that, where they're not only changing their diet and having people ingest certain, medicinal herbs, plants into their body, but they're decking them out in garments that are herbally infused with turmeric. And I have some Ayurveda myself. I sleep with Ayurveda sheets. One sheet that is infused with 12 different types of holy basil. I
Wow.
didn't even know that 12 different types of basil even existed.
I didn't either.
Yeah,
Crazy.
and then another one that's a sandalwood blend. And with some of these one specific, the one that I work with, because it's somewhat of a secret, the traditionally in a sense of what herbs they're infusing them with, it'll be like a sandalwood blend and with 45 other medicinal herbs that are infused in that textile.
Oh,
And it really requires you to be an Ayurvedic practitioner, and more actually an Ayurvedic doctor,
right.
for them to talk with you and disclose that information and get something that works. But in India, there's hospitals, they've done kind of experiments in that sense, where they have in a hospital room made the sheets all Ayurveda, the floor mats, even the wall coverings and everything, and had profound benefits and effects with individuals in their recovery and how quick they're recovering. So that's just obviously a true testament to how we can infuse it and have it in our lives. And of course, wearing it. And there's always starting points. I mean, I feel like starting with just literally a undyed natural linen can be really powerful. That's what I'm currently wearing right now on my body personally. And the garment that I'm wearing was actually made in Ukraine. I found them off Etsy. And if anybody's, obviously requiring assistance, I can assist in trying to find, garments, or assisting people in guiding them in a certain direction. But these, my garment that I'm wearing on my top, my shirt, is OEKO-TEX certified. So it's certified all non-toxic. So the dyes that were used to make it kind of the green or sage color that it is all non-toxic. My pants are just undyed natural linen. And I love that aspect. So two, yeah, you can get 100% linen, going to the store, but then if it's dyed and it has a color, they're not, they might not be disclosing what chemicals are in those dyes. And that's usually where all the chemicals are. It's fascinating. There's a documentary that's called Water Blue, and it talks about the textile industry being it is like the most polluting industry on this planet, and it's contaminated all of the major rivers in the world.
Wow.
And so it's something that, again, just kind of bringing that awareness there. I'm not a really big, I'm not really big on the fear factor aspect. I'm just more about, okay, what's the alternative? What is, where are there other solutions to the problem? I like problem solving personally. So
And I like that you pointed that out, because that's one thing that I always tell people when they buy clothes: wash them first, because what you don't realize is they're submerging these clothes in chemicals before they ship them over, because they don't want the bugs to get to them.
absolutely.
If the bugs are afraid to touch your clothes because they have so many chemicals on them, and then you're putting those chemicals on your body, what do you think it's doing to you?
Yeah.
So I always tell people, wash your clothes before you wear. I know people like that fresh, the way it looks when it's fresh. No, wash it. You want to try to get as much as those chemicals off as you can. Also, one thing that I learned recently, and this was so disappointing to me, and I don't know if I really want to call companies out. Let's just say probably the biggest yoga companies you can think of, that I have tons of it in my closet. There's what's called forever chemicals that, even if you wash it, does not leave the clothes. And for some reason, these chemicals have been concentrated in the crotch area of yoga pants,
Mhm.
knowing that women don't wear underwear usually when they wear yoga pants. I do now whenever I wear these clothes, but because I still have them in my closet, I couldn't get rid of them. Mentally, I'm working on that. But the fact that these forever chemicals cause cancer, cause thyroid issues, cause kidney disease, it causes all kinds of problems. And we are advertising it to health industry the people who are into going to the gym and working out and being healthy. And those are the people that you're going to target with these issues. So there's something there. We don't need to go that deep into the rabbit hole, but just to bring awareness, the fact that these big companies that are focused on health are putting forever chemicals concentrated in the crotch area of yoga pants. Very disappointing to me. So yeah, I've started shifting out my closet because I do feel a difference when I'm wearing pure cotton, linen. I do feel a difference. And I really appreciate you being on here. We need to have you on here again because, like, you know, there's so much more information that you have. I want you to share your social media accounts, any websites you have, if somebody wants to buy some of your artwork or just get your advice on where to buy sheets that you were talking about that that are used with all kinds of goodness, where they can reach you, Asher.
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is Asher T Sinclaire. So ASHERTSINCLAIRE.com. And on there, obviously there's the contact and it has all my social media actually there. So that's pretty much the best place to go. But I am on, the social media platforms, but the best is just to reach out to me through the website and connect and just start the discussion, really, because you never know where it's going to blossom out and evolve to once the conversation gets started. So and of course it's a journey. It's wherever someone's coming from and wherever they're at, just meeting them there and then just seeing, like you're saying, with your own personal wardrobe where you feel comfortable, because there's really no reason to obviously traumatize yourself. But I'm always about, like, once you become aware, and then when that feeling comes up where you really feel that you've completed that phase of your life and you're ready to let go of the garments, then of course it's a great time to release them. One practice that I personally like to do is garments that I'm not ready to maybe release that attachment to, because attachment is such a big part of this. We kind of go into kind of the spiritual aspect of it too, of the conversation. Memories and things like that. I mean, those things do get infused into our clothes and, how we feel in them, or again, memories that we have with them. I like to take them and put them in a bag and leave them in my closet and kind of take them off the hanger, put them in the bag, put them almost like behind, the scenes, so to speak. And then that way I'm not looking at them as an option, at that particular time, but I'm also not having that traumatizing giving them away just yet. I can go back into the bag. I can pull it out, work with it. But I feel like that's a little bit of like bridging that gap of just kind of taking it easy on yourself, to do it in that respect. And then when you're ready, and you're maybe giving away other things, then you could go ahead and throw that bag in with the other things and release it. So
right. Great advice. Thank you for sharing that, Asher. I really appreciate that. I'm going to have to start doing that myself. But I feel like when we know better, we do better, right? So it's baby steps, it's learning. It's like, I always say, the more that I think I know, the more that I know, the more I realize I know nothing. So on this journey, there's just so much. And it's like, okay, well, now it's time to start doing better. I want to live a long, healthy life. I want my children to live a long, healthy life. Starts teaching, the younger generation what we know, and, and help others as much as we can. Right. So I'm still on the journey myself. My closet is not, pure, cotton and linen and wool yet, but it will be someday. I'm making the journey, the process. So thank you so much for your advice on how you made that transition. And I appreciate you so much for coming on today and sharing your experiences with us, and so much great information, great websites to look up, things to look into, the sheets. I love that. I'm going to have to talk to you more about that on how I can get some of those sheets, just saying. But thank you so much, Asher. I appreciate you being here today. I love and adore you. And we will have you on again soon. Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in to Whole-ly Chit with Kristy Austin. I will see you next week.